What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to share what I'm looking at right now as far as a property investment, and it's actually not even in Ecuador, right? Now I do follow two markets in the US where I currently own property, so you can say, well, I have some skin in the game, right? And one of the markets is Big Sky, Montana, Big Sky, Bozeman, Montana area. But that market over the last year has just gone crazy. It's doubled in the last year. A condo that was $190,000 last December is now going for close to $400,000. The other market I follow is where I'm from, Cleveland, Ohio, right? And here, obviously, you can find much more inexpensive deals. What I'm going to talk about today is actually kind of a mix of real estate and financing in one, and it's lease with option to buy deals. Now, in markets like this, where almost everything is pretty high priced, you kind of have to go to the fringes, right, to look for ways to make money in real estate. And fringes for you might be going to a Midwest city like Cleveland, Ohio, and more so, even more on the fringe might be the inner city area of Cleveland, Ohio, for instance, right, where I've done some investing myself. Now, and I'll show you here an example. But what's the benefit of this? Well, what you can do is you can buy, if you kind of learn the area a little bit, maybe it's a city where you're from. You can still find deals in Cleveland, around $20,000, $30,000, right? Like this one that just popped up. Now, you kind of have to know the area pretty well. Like, I would buy personally around the Cleveland Clinic area. It's one of the top hospitals in the whole nation, #1 in heart, supposedly, so they say, and it's right smack dab in the middle of the Cleveland ghetto. But to this range here in East Cleveland, it gets really rough, right? And if you go too far south here from where the Cleveland Clinic is, it also gets really rough. And if you go west here towards the center of town, this area here can also get pretty rough. So you kind of have to find the pockets of where to buy. And you have to be willing to buy in places that most other people are not willing to buy, right? Maybe let's be honest, the main reason most people are not interested is obviously they see safety issues, or it might even be just a race issue of why property is just way cheaper than even just a few miles in the other direction. But the opportunity here that I've found is that you can buy up these properties like this one here that I really liked, but it obviously just went under contract. But you could find it very cheap here in this. You might find it on a street that's actually halfway decent, that's coming up, has some new construction on it, right? Some renovated houses, and then in a house with good bones, and obviously it still needs work. But say for $20,000, like this house was asking, right? And then you can turn around and you can lease option it to buy to someone who might be interested in living in this area. Maybe they work in the clinic and, they just don't have great credit, or for whatever reason they can't get a bank loan. And what you can do is offer them the lease option to buy it. Often, for them, it would beat renting because you're getting a house at the end. If you finish the contract, you get the house, right? So, you could do something like a 5-year or a 7-year lease option with the option to buy at the end of the house. If they complete the contract, then they would get the house at the end, right? And what I've found that the people are mainly focused on in this price bracket is the monthly payment. Now you could get a $3,000 or $5,000 down payment, which shows that they're going to take care of this place because now they consider it almost theirs. And then say 5 years at $650 a month, $5,000 down payment. You're looking at $44,000 for this $20,000 house. Now you might have to buy it. You might have to put 5 or a little bit more into it, right, to make it livable. And that's something you'd have to check out, obviously, before buying. But you can see how you could easily double your money, paid back, of course, over 5 or 7 years. You could stretch it out if the dollar value is a little higher to, say, a 7-year lease, and with option to buy at the end. And you can obviously negotiate it any way you like. Maybe a lump sum at the end of the contract, or they just simply, what I've done is they pay a down payment and then they get the house. Basically, if they finish the contract, it's going to be less and less probable that they default. And if they do default, you get the asset back, in this case the house, and you can legally evict them, right? So again, that's why I kind of like the lease option to buy. The pros are basically that the people will, unlike a rental, I've tried that in these poor income areas and it sucks. You don't want to go there. People just stop paying on a whim and they'll milk the eviction period as long as they can. It's just a nightmare, right? But when you lease option something to buy, people will take ownership of the property. They'll fix their own toilets. They'll fix all the little stuff because that's in the contract that they have to do. And the houses, they know it's going to be theirs eventually, so they will take better care of it. So that's a big positive. And second, another pro is that it's a real estate-backed investment, right? So obviously that has benefits in inflation times like we're in. And number three, you could basically easily, the money you could make, you could charge double for the house that you just paid for it over a 5 to 7, 8 year period, whatever you can negotiate, and it gets paid back over that period of time. The cons are obviously it's not a fully passive investment. You will have to probably charge people themselves, but now with these new age digital wallets like Venmo, I have one house similar to this on this street, and they just pay me via Venmo, and they're very punctual with the payments. They're already 2 years plus into a 4-year deal, and they're pretty happy that pretty soon they're going to get the house. For them it's the same price as a rent, but for them it beats a rent because obviously you get an asset at the end. So it's not a fully passive investment. But you'll find it a lot easier to get your money each month if people feel like they're going to be getting an asset at the end of the deal. Obviously, you still have to pay insurance, and unfortunately, like on a house similar to this nearby here on the street, I pay $900 a year that I have to pay because if something goes wrong, ultimately the house is still in my name. So the further out from the inner city you get in a place like Cleveland, obviously the insurance prices will go down. But that's kind of the situation, something that you're just going to have to pay for and keep in mind when you're negotiating a deal with someone. And the property taxes, I've negotiated that they pay from the moment that they went in, and they are paying it because they've literally almost practically taken ownership of the house in their minds, and they're pretty happy with it. You can't structure it like a rental contract with an option to buy at the end so that if there is an eviction that needs done, it'll just go a little bit smoother as well. But I'm not a lawyer or anything, so that's something you want to consult with them. But that's it. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now, where I'm from. So you might consider lease optioning to buy inner city property, right? Property that most people will just not even glance at. But that might be where the opportunities are nowadays in like fringe areas like this in the U.S., right? Fringe cities like Cleveland. Fringe areas within Cleveland, like say the inner city and stuff. Because if you go to the nicer areas, prices are really high right now, and so I just don't know if deals are hard to find. Even inventory, places for sale are hard to find, let alone deals at this time. So that's why nowadays you kind of have to go to the fringes to find deals and stuff. And yes, you can manage something like this once it's been once the contract's been made. It is pretty easy to manage from afar, like say living in South America like I do. Or obviously property managers like for this type of real estate are hard to find. Most don't want to deal with it or even go into these places. You'd know if you bought in here, right? They tend to want to stay to the property managers to the nicer areas. So anyway, this is something you might have to manage yourself, but like I said, the management is very, very, very low once the person's signed and is in there. So anyway, I'm Mr. Second Passport. If you like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button below. Take care.